Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at some English Premier League football. Specifically, we're going to be diving into some articles about Arsenal and their upcoming match against Ipswich Town. Should be a fun one, especially with the holidays right around the corner.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on. The festive fixtures are always exciting, and this one has all the makings of a real holiday thriller, doesn't it? Some interesting historical trends we can look at too, how teams have performed at this time of year, and then, of course, the current form of both sides.
Yeah, so let's start there. It is that festive period, like you said, and Arsenal right now are sitting in a pretty decent position. Third place going into the holiday fixtures, and that sort of begs the question historically, how important is it to be in a good position at Christmas time? I mean, I remember reading that something like 50% of the time the team leading at Christmas wins the whole thing.
It's a pretty significant stat, isn't it? I think 50% is about right, yeah. But I'd say it's more of a psychological boost than a guarantee. I mean, puts a bit of pressure on the chasing pack, doesn't it?
Right.
But, and this is important, I think, for Arsenal fans, especially we've seen them in this position before, looking good around Christmas, but haven't always seen it through.
Yeah, they've definitely stumbled in the past. So recent history, not totally on their side, but what about current form? We were just looking before the show. Their home form this season has been pretty impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Unbeaten at home so far this season, and that's across all competitions, not just the Premier League.
Wow.
And even more remarkable, they haven't lost to a newly promoted side, like Ipswich, in something like 41 Premier League matches.
41.
Yeah, 41. So that's going back quite a few seasons. So
Tough.
definitely a fortress they've built there at home.
That's a pretty daunting task for Ipswich then, isn't it? Going away to a team like that with that kind of record makes you think they're almost unbeatable on their own turf. But, and there's always a but, right? They're coming off a tough match against Crystal Palace. Won the game, but
Yeah, that victory came at a cost. Bukayo Saka, their star winger, picked up a nasty injury.
that's right.
And that's a massive blow for Arsenal. He's such a dynamic player, creates so much for them going forward, scores goals. You can't underestimate the impact of losing a player like that, especially in a tight game like we expect this one to be.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of those individual battles within a match, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you lose a key player like Saka, and suddenly the whole dynamic shifts. Who steps up in his place? Can they fill that void? Big questions for the manager to answer. And of course, talking about the impact of individual players, we got to talk about Ipswich a bit. They're coming into this off a bit of a drubbing. I think they lost 4-0 to Newcastle last time out.
Yeah, not a great result for them, especially going into a game against a team like Arsenal. But, and this might surprise you a little, they've actually been better on the road this season than at home.
Really?
Yeah. A bit of a strange one, isn't it? But it happens sometimes, could be a number of factors. Maybe the pressure of playing in front of their own fans gets to them, or perhaps they play a bit more conservatively at home. But away from home, they seem a bit more, I don't know, free-flowing, happy to soak up pressure and hit teams on the break.
So almost like playing with a bit less fear, a bit more freedom when they're away from home.
Exactly.
So could that play into their hands against Arsenal? I mean, if Arsenal are expected to dominate possession, especially at home, could Ipswich actually use that to their advantage? Hit them on the counter when they least expect it.
It's definitely a possibility, but, and we have to be realistic here, Ipswich's record against Arsenal, especially away from home, well, let's just say it's not pretty. I think they're without a win in I don't know, over 40 years at Arsenal, something crazy like that.
Whoa, that's a long time. So history not really on their side either then?
Not really, no, but as they say, records are made to be broken.
Exactly. And that's what makes football so exciting. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But let's get back to those individual battles for a minute, because you mentioned Saka's injury being a big loss for Arsenal.
Right, and this is where I think the articles you sent over really highlight some key areas to watch.
Right.
One that jumped out at me was the potential matchup between Gabriel Martinelli, Arsenal's young forward, and Erigene Muric, Ipswich's goalkeeper.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Why is that matchup so interesting?
Well, Martinelli's got this knack for scoring late goals, especially at home, seems to thrive under pressure, pops up with a crucial goal just when Arsenal needs it.
Sounds like a real game changer.
He is, yeah. And then you've got Muric, who, well, he's a talented keeper, but he has shown a tendency to, shall we say, make the odd error, especially when facing pressure late in games.
Oh, so a player known for late game heroics versus a keeper who maybe isn't as strong under pressure in the final minutes. that could be a real turning point in the match, couldn't it? I mean, if it's tight going into the final stages, you'd have to fancy Martinelli to take advantage of any slip-up from Mirik.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this matchup so intriguing. It could all come down to that one moment of brilliance or maybe a mistake
Yeah.
that decides the game. And that's without even mentioning, another interesting stat that I saw was that Arsenal haven't trailed at halftime in any home game this season.
Wow. So they're either level or ahead at the break every single home game. That's got to give them a huge psychological advantage, doesn't it? I mean, coming out for that second half, knowing they're already in a good position.
Absolutely. It sets the tone for the whole match, doesn't it?
Right.
Allows them to dictate the tempo, play with confidence. And for the opposition, it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
You're already chasing the game from the start. You're having to take risks, and that can open you up at the back.
So, advantage Arsenal then. Based on all this, are you saying Arsenal are the clear favorites going into this match?
I'd say they have a lot in their favor. The home form, the historical edge. But, and this is important, football is a funny old game.
That's right.
Anything can happen. Ipswich might just find that extra bit of motivation, especially after that heavy defeat last time out.
Yeah, they'll definitely be looking to bounce back, prove a point.
And like we said, they've been better on the road this season, so who knows? Maybe this is the game where they turn their fortunes around against Arsenal. It's going to be fascinating to see how they adapt without Saka, how they cope with the pressure of playing at the Emirates.
Absolutely. So to wrap it all up, will Arsenal continue their dominant home form, or will Ipswich pull off a Christmas miracle? One thing's for sure, this Boxing Day fixture is going to be one to watch. Loads to think about. The individual battles, the impact of injuries, the psychological factors we've talked about, but ultimately it's all going to come down to those 90 minutes on the pitch.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm really intrigued to see how both teams approach this one. Will Arsenal go all-out attack, try to kill the game early? Or will they sit back a bit, soak up the pressure, and hit Ipswich on the break? And how will Ipswich set up? Will they be bold and go for it? Or will they sit deep and try to frustrate Arsenal? So many questions, and that's what makes it so exciting. We've talked a lot today about the importance of home advantage, those stats about Arsenal's incredible home record.
Right.
But it does make you wonder, in the grand scheme of things, how much does home field advantage really matter in modern football?
That is a great question. Something for all our listeners to ponder. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and happy holidays. We'll see you back here soon for another deep dive into the world of sports.
Cheers.